Hello everybody, I've got a lot to get through, so much so that I think I'm going to have to split this up into 2 videos. I do want to talk about something that happened on Raw this week and my overall feelings on the show, specifically how it relates to Daniel Bryan and how his character is being portrayed on WWE television, the talent himself, how the fans react to him, how the WWE portrays him, the stuff that they're doing with him on television. So my next video is going to be entirely Daniel Bryan centric, but I'm going to hold that off until the end of the week. For now, I do want to talk about something that I did on Sunday, and that was I watched not only TNA Slammiversary, but also the Chikara pay-per-view, Aniversario Never Compromise. I hope I pronounced that right. But I did watch both pay-per-views. One of my commenters on the last video, I'm sorry, I forgot who it was, said something about the Chikara pay-per-view. I was like, you know what, I'm not going to be doing much on Sunday anyway, so I might as well, it's another $15, so whatever, I'll check out the Chikara show as well. I actually had a very lazy day on Sunday between watching 2 wrestling pay-per-views back-to-back. I also, for some unknown reason, I decided to hook up my old Super Nintendo and just play Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, one of the greatest games of all time. Hard as fuck. I forgot how hard that game is. I think as the Legend of Zelda series progressed, the enemies became easier and easier to kill because I was, in Ocarina of Time, I don't recall ever being in a position where I was struggling for health. I was like, the bigger difficulty in Ocarina was figuring out all the puzzles and figuring out where to go, whereas in the Super Nintendo version, Ganon's Tower in the Super Nintendo version is like an endurance test. I was like, fuck, how did I beat this when I was 6 years old? Although I got through it pretty quick. I got to the Master Sword before I turned on the Chikara pay-per-view, and I was like, wow, I remember that took me a lot longer when I was younger, so I don't know. Apparently, I was better at killing enemies when I was younger, but it took me a lot longer to do it, so, I don't know what that means. But whatever, and I'm sure John Cena would... I just gave John Cena perfect material for his next, what are you doing this Sunday promo? But yeah, I watched both pay-per-views. I'm not going to go into too much detail about the Chikara show because I'm not an avid Chikara watcher. I only watch them once in a while, so I don't follow the product very closely or anything, so for me to go too much into detail would be ludicrous. But I will say, the show overall, I didn't like it that much. I don't think it clicked really well. The effort was there from the guys, sure, but a lot of it was just really awkward. First of all, the production was not very good. The lighting sucked in the venue, and I know that's not a staple of Chikara, because I've seen other Chikara shows that are better lit than that. I mean, this looked worse than that Hardcore Justice pay-per-view that TNA did a few years ago. There were points where I lost track of the action. I couldn't tell what was going on because it was too dark. It was really awkward, and it was really distracting, and I think really took away from the show. Some of the matches came off as really awkward and spotty, like the opening 6-man tag I didn't think clicked all that well. The Sarcophagus match that they did, that match really, really dragged and was not very well put together. And again, the lighting was really bad, so I couldn't really tell what they were doing on the stage with that. I couldn't even see the Sarcophagus from the stage until they opened it because the lighting was so bad. And that match dragged on for a really, really long time, too. Again, the effort was there. I mean, they certainly tried to make it a really good match, but I don't think it clicked all that well. And the ending to the pay-per-view, which everybody's talking about, I guess Chikara is going on hiatus for a while or whatever. It's obviously part of some storyline that they're doing, or just some basic explanation for them going away for a few months or however long it is. But it came off really awkwardly. Really, really awkward. And really just an abrupt ending to the pay-per-view. And if they were going to do that, at least give us a finish in the main event first and then do that. So it comes off as more of a big news headline rather than just, typical Vince Russo tomfuckery in the main event. It kind of reminded me of... when TNA did that pay-per-view, I'm trying to remember which one it was. It was Samoa Joe and Booker T in the main event. And it was actually a really good match, but then they did the finish where there was no finish, and everybody was just left confused. And that's what this kind of was, where they just did this whole gigantic clusterfuck with no ending. And I was just left baffled when it was over. I was like, that was it? Show's over? I was like, all right. And it's just a lot of awkward stuff like that. And I'm not saying all the matches were bad or anything. I thought the hair versus hair match was actually a lot of fun. I really liked the Colony and the 6-man tag match that they had. I thought the tag title match was good. 3.0 versus Pieces of Hate. Jigsaw and the Shard, which, by the way, that's a cool name, the Shard. Reminds me of the Dark Crystal. For those of you children of the 80s that, love those old fantasy films. The Dark Crystal, fucking love that movie. And anything that... it's probably not a reference to the Dark Crystal, but I hear Shard, and that just makes me go, oh, Dark Crystal, okay. Because I'm a nerd like that. But yeah, I mean, they certainly tried to put on a good show, and Chikara has put on really good shows before. I've seen it. Just this one, it just didn't click with me. I just... It struck me as a low-rent indie show with some bizarre booking thrown in as well. It didn't really capture the amount of fun and wackiness that Chikara usually does with their shows. This one was not one of their better outings, but, it happens. I don't know how long this hiatus is going to last or what all the details are behind it or anything like that, but we'll certainly see. But, it was nice to get, just for the sake of being... uber wrestling fan for the day. I watched 2 pay-per-views in one day because I felt so hardcore. I was like, yeah, I'm a wrestling nerd because I'm watching more than 1 pay-per-view in a day. And I'm easily impressed with myself. Woo. But then right after that, I turned on Slammiversary, and my thoughts on that show, it had a few missteps. It was not the excellent show that they put on last year. But overall, I thought it was a good show. It was solid overall, and some stuff turned out way better than I thought it would, even if there were some boneheaded mistakes. And, this show I will go more into detail with since I do follow the TNA product. The opening match, Ultimate X match, was good. The problem with Ultimate X nowadays is that they've done so many of them that nobody cares anymore. I mean, seriously, this looked like every other Ultimate X match they've ever done, which they said on this show that they've done 30 of them, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, the match is less than 10 years old and you've done 30 of them? No wonder nobody gives a fuck. It's oversaturated. Could you imagine if they only done like 8 of them? And they did this match would be amazing, but because we've seen so many of them, it really doesn't stand out that much. It was a good match. I thought Suicide looked really good. I know they have TJ Perkins under the mask, and it looks like they finally found the right guy to play the character, because he came off really well in this match. Chris Sabin won, which I agree with, and Hulk Hogan putting him over after the match was a big deal, and they really needed to emphasize the X Division champion getting a world title shot going into the match. But I do like that they addressed it, and I did like that Hogan, basically put Sabin over and said he's going to be our next title contender, which is, they need to make that feel like a big deal, establishing somebody as number 1 contender for the world title. And then Hogan rambled on and cursed up a storm, which was hilarious. I was sitting there like, Hogan is either on his meds or off his meds. I'm not sure, because he's in rare form tonight. Bishop, you're a bitch and your old man's a bitch. He just went off. I don't know if he was operating off of a script or he was just in loony, Toontown earlier in that day, but he was just fucking nuts, and it was kind of funny for all the wrong reasons. So there was that. And that led into the 6-man tag match, Hardy, Samoa Joe, and Magnus versus the Aces and Eights. This was a good match. It was basically just a showcase for the babyfaces to throw the heels around and give them a feel-good win. And for that, it was good. It was a nice, solid tag match. So, okay, that was fine. Then we got the gut check match, which was a piss break match, and I don't think anybody gave a shit. The guys looked more polished than they have on TV. But the crowd had no reason to give a shit because they did nothing to establish their characters at all. It's just, hey, 2 young guys, rookies, having a match. And, oh, hey, the winner gets a Bound for Glory Series spot. And I don't feel like they hyped that up enough. So it's like nobody knew who these guys were, and the crowd reacted appropriately to it with, utter silence and deafening silence where you could probably hear a pin drop. Just that nobody cared. So hopefully if they're going to give Jay Bradley this push and put him in the Bound for Glory series, hopefully they do something with him, or he does something with his character to really stand out, or he'll just look like what he did here, just a bland newcomer that nobody has a reason to give a shit about. What else do we have? Then after that was the TV title match, which was, it was alright. It was basically just, basically, although not exactly, it was basically Ultimate Warrior versus Honky Tonk Man at SummerSlam 1988. They beat up Joseph Park backstage, so it's like, all right, Devon needs an opponent, so he's just gonna ramble. It's like, I could kick his ass or whatever, blah blah blah. Then Abyss comes out and kicks his ass, and that's basically the match. It wasn't 30 seconds. It probably would have been more effective if it had been 30 seconds. But for what it was just, it was whatever. It is what it is. One of those type of deals. Then we got, what was after that? I think the Hall of Fame segment, which was next, which was nice. I half expected Kurt Angle to be picked. A lot of people were throwing around like Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage or Jeff Jarrett. I was thinking maybe Jerry Lynn, since he retired this year and had his last match with TNA, maybe they'd give him the nod. But Kurt Angle, I'm not shocked that they gave it to him, and I don't know if he's getting close to retirement himself. But it was a nice, classy segment. Nice video package for Kurt. Very much like they did for Sting last year. And it was fine. It was cool. I had no problem with it. It was really nice. The Hall of Fame from TNA really has no credibility, but just for a spotlight segment to, acknowledge somebody's accomplishments, it was good. So I'll take it for what it is. Then we got the 4-way tag, which was a lot of fun. Nice tag team action throughout. A bit clusterfucky, but that's to be expected when there were 4 teams running around. James Storm and fucking Gunner won. It was like, fucking Gunner. He's one of those guys that is always going to get a push, and I'll just never understand it. But, it's funny. With AMW and Beer Money, there was always a debate over who the better partner was. I don't think Storm has to worry about that in this team with Gunner. I think everybody pretty much knows. Yeah, Storm's the talent of the team, and Gunner's just the young guy that they have nothing for and isn't really that good. And again, it's not that Gunner is bad. He lived up to his end of the deal in this match. He's technically okay. He doesn't botch all over the place or anything. He's just really, really bland and ordinary. Nothing about him stands out. So I can't imagine somebody looking at him and just going, "We're going to push that guy." Really? All right. He's your pick, so okay. But the tag match was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. It's always nice to get a good action-packed tag team match. Of course, that's one of the reasons I mark out for the Shield so much. Is like, oh my god, their matches are so awesome. I swear to God, if I were going to make a list of my top 10 favorite matches of 2013, it'd be Punk and Undertaker at Mania, Cena and Punk on that episode of Raw, and then probably 8 Shield matches. Because they're that fucking awesome. Tag team matches are awesome. I love them. But yeah, this 4-way tag was a lot of fun, and I don't know where they're going to go with the tag division, because they're really lacking depth in the tag team division. I mean, that's pretty much, those 4 teams are pretty much their whole division. They could use at least 2 or 3 more to add in to, bulk it up a little bit, especially since Roode and Aries are probably going to split after this. So, let's see, what else? Oh, and then we got, when people do the end of the year awards for wrestling, there needs to be a new award. The match that everybody thought was going to suck to high heavens, but ended up being shockingly great. I remember that one Bound for Glory, I thought Hogan and Sting was going to be a disaster. I think that was my exact word. And it actually, it wasn't great, but it turned out to be, way more entertaining than it had any right to be. Last year it was Joseph Park and Bully Ray, a match that I think I said this is going to be a disaster, of Michael Cole and Jerry Lawler-esque proportions. I think those were the words that I was throwing around. And it actually turned out to be awesome. I thought last year Joseph Park and Bully Ray actually stole the show. And this year, Gail Kim versus Taryn Terrell. Gail Kim versus Tiffany from ECW. I pitched that match to you. You expect shitty diva filler match. That's exactly what you expect. And they went out there in a last man standing match, last knockout standing match, and tore the house down. And I'm just sitting there like, okay, either Taryn is 10 times better than anybody gave her credit for, or Gail Kim is really just that good. She's like the Shawn Michaels of women's wrestling, because did anybody expect that match was going to be anything even watchable, much less fucking good? Really fucking good? I mean, those 2 girls went out there and beat the shit out of each other. I was really impressed. I was like, holy shit, that match was great. Or at least way better than I had ever conceived that it could possibly be. It's my hat's off to both girls. You don't see women's matches that good on a mainstream level too often. So hats off to them. I mean, they put on one heck of a match. I was really, really impressed. So much fucking better than it had any right to be. So again, that should be a new wrestling award for the end of the year awards, and that should win, because I can't picture anything else topping it. You expect a shitty filler match, and instead you get arguably the match of the night. So, okay, Gail and Taryn, they had a great match. Good for them. Then we got AJ Styles versus Kurt Angle, which had the most bone-headed piece of booking on this entire show. Why did AJ Styles lose this match? There was no reason for AJ to lose. He comes out, he's got a new gimmick, new character that they've been pushing. His motivations are left a mystery. Nobody knows where he stands right now. He's beating the shit out of everybody he's come across. He's got a new finisher with the leg submission. They had a name for it. I forget what it was. He came out to a new theme song and everything else, and everything's great. And Kurt Angle goes over. The fuck? What reason was there for Kurt Angle to go over? The match was really good. I'm not saying that the match was bad. The match was really good. And, you expect that out of those two. You expect those two to put on a really good match. But that ending just left me just flabbergasted. I was like, AJ Styles with a new gimmick, new character, probably going to be the one to face Bully Ray at Bound for Glory. First pay-per-view match back since that match with Daniels, so since December, and he loses. I don't want to say they Curtis Axled him, but holy fuck. I mean, that was a terrible decision. I can't even imagine. Actually, you know what? Yes, I can. I know what the thought process was. Here, there are reasons for doing it. One, Kurt Angle was put into the Hall of Fame that night, and they needed to keep it a feel-good night for him. I'm sure that was tossed around, and I'm also sure, I swear to fucking God, here was the thought. Reason number 2. Angle wins the first match so AJ can get his win back in the Bound for Glory series. I'm dead fucking serious. I'm positive that was tossed around. I'm sure it was. It's like, well, they need to balance out 50-50, and it's like, There was no good reason for Kurt Angle to win this match. Kurt Angle's great worker, but AJ's the one with the direction right now. He's the one that, to me, looks like he's going to be prepped up to face Bully Ray, or at least I assumed. I mean, we're all comparing him to Sting in '97, so, I mean, why wouldn't you? And, everything about the presentation of this new character is really good. The theme song was great. I really liked that. It was nice and different. And he loses. I can't imagine that. That just makes no fucking sense. This guy that has way more intrigue and way more storyline built into him, and he loses. I don't understand that. But the match was really good. I do want to say they did go out there and have another really good match. I just don't understand why they did what they did. It just makes absolutely no sense to me. Then we got the main event, Bully Ray versus Sting. I did like all the little vignettes that they did throughout the show with showing Sting's title wins, which really added importance, significance to that stipulation that if Sting lost, he could never go for the world title again. Which to me is actually a little bit more impactful than putting his career on the line, because that stipulation has been, shitted on, or shat on, whatever. That stipulation has been, done away with and found some loophole around it or whatever, whenever it's been done in wrestling. I mean, that's just sort of become a running gag. But by saying that if Sting loses, he can never go for the world title again, that to me is a little bit more tangible, because you don't see that stipulation very often. The only other time I can recall is Lex Luger and Yokozuna in '93. And the way they did that one, you knew that Luger was going to get back into the title picture, at least by Mania time. If had Lex Luger actually panned out as a character, he probably would have won. But, so I thought that was a great stipulation for the match and the main event itself. And I have to say, points for creativity. I will say that. The match was basically just, it was like Ryback and Cena, where it was just, okay, let's just cook up whatever ridiculous shit we can think of. None of it's going to make any goddamn sense. It's just going to be a bunch of no-selling and a bunch of wild, hardcore stuff. But you know what? It's going to be fun to watch. And that's what this match was. And they did stuff in the match that I was like, kudos. I I either haven't seen that in a long time or I've never seen that before. When Bully Ray whipped out a switchblade, I was like, what the fuck? And then he started cutting the ring up. I was like, what the fuck? This is so weird and awesome at the same time. It's, I thought the match was fun, overbooked to holy hell and wild, and it was a 3-ring circus, but at least it was entertaining. So I'll give them that. It was much better than I ever thought it could be. So, again, kudos. Points for creativity, again. That main event was way better than I thought it would be. And overall, it was a good match, and the right guy went over in Bully Ray. So, yeah, that match, the right guy went over, at least. So, overall, Slammiversary, again, it had its missteps. Like, obviously, the big one was AJ losing. That one just threw me through a loop. I was just sitting there, just confused. I was like, I can't believe that just happened. I guess I shouldn't be shocked, because I see bad booking so frequently. I should be used to it by now. But overall, it wasn't a bad pay-per-view. It was actually pretty solid. And like I said, a lot of stuff like the Knockouts match and Sting and Bully Ray turned out better than I expected it to be. And overall, it was solid all around. Not stupendous or spectacular, but it was solid all around. And I'll accept that. So it was fine. Nice day. Nice pay-per-view. So yeah, I enjoyed that. I don't know where TNA is going to go from here. Maybe they're going to drop AJ off the face of the planet now. I don't know, because there was no reason for him to lose that fucking match. But that's all I got for now. Like I said, I'm going to do my Daniel Bryan WWE-centric video later in the week, so be on the lookout for that. Until then, everybody have a good Monday and enjoy your week.